Thank you very much for being here and for having the time to share all this amazing experience. I hope I could share some like a different point of view and a little bit what it is happening now in Bolivia around the climate emergency. I'm Martin Vilela. I'm a father, but also all what they say about me. And sometimes, regarding the climate emergency, I have a lot of climate anxiety. And this is a really hard sensation that we've developed when we are in touch with all of the news and reports about the climate state of the planet. But the thing is, as you see, is not easy, because it's not just about the human, it's not about the human emissions. The problem is that these emissions are starting to heat the planet and interfere in other elements that helps the planet to cool the planet, to stabilize the temperature in the planet. So big ecosystems that are responsible to absorb carbon dioxide are starting to die, and they are starting to lose their ability to recover itself. So it is happening in the oceans and forests mainly, and well, you have seen news about what it is happening, I'm sure about it. The other thing, and maybe the most important, is the glaciers. And the glaciers in the North Pole, the Arctic sea ice is starting to melt. And if that happens, we are going to lose the capacity of the reflective capacity of the world to reflect the heat from the sun. And the problem, if this happens, ocean currents and air currents will change. And so biodiversity will not have enough time to adapt to that changes. So all the food chain could be in danger. Also, and this is very frightening, and it is happening here in Canada and Alaska, in the boreal areas, there's a huge amount of methane. Methane is a greenhouse gas that has 27 more times the power to keep heat in their molecules. So it warms faster the Earth. So if that happens, we are going to confront very soon a really bad scenario where climate change reach a tipping point, a point of no return, a point where the temperatures will increase between 3.5 to 7 Celsius degrees at the end of the century. And this will hit especially the tropical belt of the planet, where the global south, developing countries, and most vulnerable communities are. So this is a really bad news. The other part of the bad news is that climate commitments of governments are not enough until now. The climate commitments of all the countries until now, they make a huge gap of inaction. So this is the last year that we have in order to ask our government to improve their climate commitments, in order that we really achieve climate actions that really reduce carbon dioxide emissions, and we could stabilize the temperature before it is too late. The good news is that there's still time, and science proved that too. And the good news is that, well, it's not that good news, but it's a huge challenge, is that we have to peak our emissions around this year. And we have to build a new society with zero emissions until 2050. This is the IPCC report 1.5, one of the most important papers around climate change. And so, well, this is a little bit the state of the emergency. Bolivia is a country that is one of the most vulnerable countries on climate change. And this is because, well, there's a lot of poverty, we don't have enough resources, we don't have capacities, and so on. In the last 20 years, we have seen several huge impacts of climate change. For example, we have seen the disappearance of glaciers, we have seen massive floodings and droughts, we have seen massive also landslides who take out of or destroy the homes of thousands of families. But also we have seen the disappearance of the second largest lake in Bolivia. And it is true, we are not responsible for climate change. We don't have historical responsibilities. But this argument led our government to propose a national commitment on climate change, that it's a commitment to increase the emissions. Because what Bolivia says is that we are going to build megadams, we are going to start a forest management mixed with the big agribusiness and livestock industry. And so last year, we lived one of the most deadly and sad disasters in Bolivia. 5.2 million hectares were burned of forests and other lands. And this happens because Bolivia achieved an agreement with China in order to export meat. And doing that, immediately after that, they released a presidential decree that allows the controlled burning of forests under the integral management of forest, and they went totally out of control. They went out of control not only because the responsibility manage human management, but also because of climate change, as it is happening now in Australia. Maybe you didn't see that because, well, maybe Bolivia doesn't, well, maybe it's not in the news, in the international news, but 5.2 million of hectares is more than the whole territory of the Netherlands, and is 2.5 times the territory of Gaspésie here in Quebec. So it's really huge. And sorry, I'm going to go back here. And it is true, we are not responsible of climate change. But if we insist in this wrong economic model that only seeks economic growth, promoting big agribusiness, promoting livestock, big megadams, oil exploitation, we are not going to develop ourselves. We are going to become more vulnerable. So the big challenge here is that we must build a new society that allow us to get out of this developing model, that allow us to build a society based on solidarity relationships, that we could restore relationships with Mother Earth and also with us. And we, unfortunately, developing countries must refuse the development that here in North some countries have achieved. And now, well, something that it is really beautiful, and it is happening in every part in the world, is that there's a lot, hundreds of activities and organizations who are promoting alternatives, who are promoting good and are restoring relationships with Mother Earth and good practices on production. In Bolivia, we have several friends and organizations and communities that are promoting urban agroecology. They are promoting fair trade schemes. They're promoting a local peasant and indigenous farming. And also they are promoting, for example, the use of solar ovens. And even if we are not responsible for climate change, we are responsible for what is going to happen after. And I think that it's not too late. And the only way that we are going to change this world, we are going to achieve these necessary changes is by working together, by networking more, that by informing ourselves, by spreading new and better practices. And sometimes when I feel in this climate anxiety, I remember that my kids taught me that inaction is not an option. And they told me also that love is the seed over where we are going to build a new society. Thank you very much.